welcome to episode 7 of my crafting podcast. This is my vlog about knitting, crochet, yarn dyeing, spinning, anything else that seems like a good idea at the time. I'm coming to you from rural North Yorkshire in the north of England, where I live with my husband, 3 daughters and 3 cats. All the places you can find me on social media should appear here. So if you're new, thank you very much for coming by. If you've been before, well, you know what's going on. I brought this little one in again. She went down very well last time. If she's a bit distracting, do make a comment and let me know. She does like to be close to me. So she's gonna, oh, where's she going? Just said she likes to be close to me and she's running away. We just had a cat invasion a moment ago. I'll put some clips at the end. My other cat jumped on my lap and decided to jump on top of the camera and knock the whole thing off. So I'm a cat magnet today. Anyway, sorry, getting back to it. Welcome to everybody who's viewing. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you coming along to watch. I want to ask you a favour. I've had some comments about the sound level on my videos. If you're just watching it, even if you're only watching a short period, would you mind just popping a comment and just say the sound level was fine, the sound level was bad, something like that, just to let me know. Because if I'm going to invest in one of those clippy mics, I want to know whether it's a lot of people are having a problem or just 1 or 2. Thank you. Okay, let's get going. I'm a bit giddy because I'm going on holiday in less than 24 hours, so very excited. But I'll try and focus for a little while and we'll get through this. Okay, so notes. Where are they now? So what happened to the projects I showed you last time? Now, I've been showing you, since I started the podcast really, the weekender. I've been calling it my weekender blanket. But actually, it isn't the weekender. It's nothing like the weekender, so I'm going to stop calling it that. It was based loosely on that as an idea. But I have now got 30 motifs. I'll show you a pic of them here. And I decided that I did want to do what I had talked about, which was to put some green, light green, grass green yarn in between to make kind of like a lawn. So the flowers are coming out of the lawn. So I've decided to call this project Lawn Flowers or Flowers on the Lawn. Something like that. If you think of a better name for it, let me know, because down below, because I really do, I'm not quite sure about either of those names, but anyway, it doesn't really matter. Down the road I might even write down the details and make a pattern out of it. But so what I've done is I've started to join them. Now this is a real real difficulty with my head, trying to get my head around the hexagons and where they all fit in, but I think I've got it sorted. My husband printed off some hexagon graph paper type thing for me, so I'm just going to write out where am I going with this. So this is where I'm up to right now. So each flower here has got some grass in between it. So this is the bottom one's not quite. So you can see where I'm going. The idea is to just have an outline of green on every connecting every set. So that's the concept. I was thinking whether I should do them with a plan. I don't do plans very well, especially not when you've got 30 motifs to try and organise. So I've just put them in a pile, integrating roughly the purples with the pinks and the greens and things. And I'm just going to grab the next one and attach it. As you can see, I'm trying to work out. It's easy when it's looking like this. It's easy to see where the next hexagon goes, but once you've picked it up and you're working on it, it's really easy to get lost. So what I'm doing is I'm putting stitch markers, so that's those 3. So there'll be 3 joins there, and then there'll be the rest of them 3 will be just loose. And then down here, see, it's not so obvious when it's like this. When you put it on the floor, it's obvious. Oh my goodness, I've got cats everywhere. It's obvious that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the last one is just clear. So I'm just basically working through those. So it's the same fun little motif as before, and I join on the 4th round, but it's just going to become not very portable very quickly. Before when I was doing just these, this is very portable. All I need is a hook and a couple of balls of yarn, and I can go anywhere with it. Now it's starting to get to where every time I add on new ones, it's just going to get, so it's going to be a home project for now. So I'm really enjoying it. I'm glad it worked out the way I expected it to, and I hope it doesn't look too chaotic. At the moment I think it does, but once the light green is round everything, it should give a kind of backdrop to the flowers. That's the plan. The only problem is I have actually only got 200-gram balls of the green, but it's a fairly standard yarn, so I should be able to get some more of it. And I don't think dye lot's going to matter much, because, you know, they're not all directly connected, and the grass is never all exactly the same colour anyway, is it? No? Okay. I'm glad you agree. So that's that. Really enjoying it still. It's still got a long way to go before it's finished, but I'm loving it, and I'm definitely enjoying having more crochet in my life. I have realised that this is definitely the way to go for me. I love knitting. Knitting is definitely my first love in crafting, but I definitely need more crochet, and I'll come on to that in a bit. So that's the lawn flowers in the grass. Oh, I don't know. Tell me your thoughts. Right, the bag. I was making a bag out of the what I call the 4 C's now. Doll belly, don't shout at me. I know it's chaotic and clumsy and clashing and cluttered. Nailed it. So this was, if anybody hasn't watched the podcast before, this was a sewing project where I basically just had a blank canvas to do whatever I fancied at the time, and sometimes I did embroidery, sometimes buttons, sometimes I sewed some fabric on, I put some crocheted things on, all kinds of mad things, but it was really just what I felt like doing at the time, and it wasn't to please anybody else, which is really what I ultimately feel we should do with our crafting, unless we're selling it, of course. So I have made it into a bag, so here it is. Drawstring like that. I think I could have put the drawstrings a little bit lower down, because it's not so easy to open it up here, but it would have been a good idea if I'd actually pressed it on the joints as well. I'm so lazy, and I can spend hours and hours crocheting and knitting and spinning, but when it comes to sewing, it's got to be bish bash bosh now, quick. Can't wait to put the iron on and iron that fabric. No, just sew it straight away. I have no idea why I'm like that, but I am. So there it is, it's a bag. So very crumpled back, and blue lining. And I haven't sewn up the hole in the lining, the hole that I turned it with. I never do with my bags. Fast and dirty. They're very good for me, not useful for anybody else. But there we go. So that one's all finished. It's quite deep. I think it's going to be good for a project like my Hotel of Bees, which has got lots of extra balls that I haven't used yet. I do kind of like to keep them with the project, so I can use a new one as soon as I've finished, and I don't have to search out the yarn, but often the bag isn't big enough. But I think this will have room for the spare balls of yarn at the bottom and the project up there, so I think it'll be good for that kind of project. I don't think I'll take it on holiday with me though, because I don't know if I'll get through security with this monstrosity, but anyway, so that's all done. Woohoo! Okay, talking about the Hotel of Bees, let's talk about it. Nothing to show because I had to step away from the Hotel of Bees. I was enjoying it so much, and I was really worried that I talked about this last time, that when do you start a holiday project? If you start it too soon, then you end up doing too much, and if you start it too late, then there might be things you need to know about it that you haven't found out until you go away. Anyway, I stepped away from it because there are repeated sections. All the sections are repeated, and I didn't want to be where I had done everything already. There was no mystery left in it. And I went to France last summer, and from here in the north of England we drove down to the south of England where my mother-in-law lives, and then we drove from there right the way down to the south coast, through the Channel Tunnel, and then another 3 or so hours the other side. Lots of delays, lots of problems. We broke down as well. And in that first day, I got so much crochet done, I could not believe it, more than I would normally do in 2-3 weeks at home. So I'm also anxious that I'm going to run out of projects while I'm away. I have got a plan for that, but we'll show you. Oh, I'm going to show you my nails. My holiday nails from Beth at Rococo in Harrogate. Oh, gorgeous. So I haven't done anything more on that. Just in case. So, and the great thing about it is it starts long and it comes slowly shorter. So you can think, oh, I've got 2 more sections left yet, but each section there's less stitches, so it gets faster and faster. So it may never happen, but I'm worried about running out of projects. So I haven't done anything more of that, and that is nearly packed. I've got it here, but it's nearly packed, ready to go tomorrow. Right, okay. Cat's asleep. Oh, sorry, sweetheart. I'm just working out the Shiloh. Did I tell you that? Shiloh. Named after the that song, Neil Diamond song, about his imaginary friend when he was a child. Right, next. Rita socks. I made these. I wasn't sure whether to frog them or not, but I finished them. So here they are. I'm not going to frog them now. There they are. 1 and 2. These sock blockers just don't fit my feet. These are the large ones, and they're still, I've only got a size UK 7.5, but they don't fit my feet. Anyway, here they are. Oh, that's a good pick. So you can see the lace pattern, which is called Delicate Sparkles, and there's a heel flap. These are cuff down. This is not my style of sock at all. Now the pattern is great, so whatever else I say, the pattern is great. It's a beautiful finished object, and of course I love the yarn as well. Biff Sugar Yarns, Rosebud, really pretty. But I mentioned last time, I think a lot of us are a toe up or a cuff down person, and I am definitely a toe up person. I really like to be able to try it on. And particularly with the cuff, I don't know how long I want the cuff to be until it's done, and with cuff down you have to decide that in advance. Now I only did 3 repeats of the pattern. The pattern calls for 4, and it's already a little bit longer than I would normally have, but of course when you're at this end you can't tell how long it's going to be because you don't know what's going to happen at this end, so that didn't suit me. And the heel, I found the heel really faffy. It's a heel flap and gusset. I think it's a standard thing. I mean, I have done them before, but it was too fiddly for me. I'm quite used to the German short row heel, where you just kind of, you stop for a minute, you just decrease into a point, you come back out again, and then you carry on where you were. And it was too much ticking off of charts, knowing what row I'm on, and it was too fiddly for me. So I won't be doing cuffed down and a heel flap again for a while. But let me reiterate, there is nothing wrong with the pattern. It is just merely me and my preferences. So there they are, rather lovely. They're going into my box of socks. They are my Finish in May pair. So it is currently the 10th of May. Yeah. So I'm still ahead of the game. Quite pleased with that. Right, that's Rita. Now then, the 10 stitch blanket, let me show you that. That hasn't had much love for a while. This is my Panda Muggium, Panda mug that my girls bought me. Taylor's of Harrogate, sour cherry tea, which has a bit of aniseed in it. Don't like that bit, but slurping, it's very nice. Okay, so a 10 stitch blanket has been on the back burner for quite a while. I've got 3 blankets on the go. There's the Memories blanket, which is just happily pottering away in the background with its 10 working weeks worth of work to be done on it. And so I'm very happy with that. And obviously my flowers in the lawn thing, they're very much current, but the 10 stitch blanket isn't very current. And I've picked it up again and thought, had a quick go at it, and I have decided I don't want to carry on with it. And I thought at this stage I might explain my criteria for projects, because I'm not like a lot of people in that I don't have projects that stay for years and years, half done, or in the stash or in the naughty corner or any other places that we hide things. I tend to make decisions pretty quickly about whether to carry on or not. Something else that I haven't done an awful lot of work on is my Stormy Sky. This is typically my take out of the house project. It's not perfectly suited to that because I need to check what row I'm on, and I need a paper and pen, and I don't like to do that outside the house. I'd rather just pick it up and get on with it. But it is bigger than it was last time I showed it to you. And from looking at the pattern last night, I think I'm about halfway through the repeats, but as you'll notice, it's getting longer, so I'm not halfway through the knitting. And I am bored with it. It is the same. It's a garter stitch, then there's a drop stitch, then there's garter stitch, and then there's this eyelet pattern, and it is pretty tedious. And so I am bored with it. And then there was the 10 stitch blanket. Now one of them still lives, the other one does not. So this is what remains of my 10 stitch blanket. So why did one live and the other not? I am quite a disciplined knitter, and I think that sounds quite negative and harsh, directive, but it's not. It's just my personality. And I think if you don't do the stuff that other knitters do, it's probably just because your personality is different. It's not that you're wrong. We're all very different in our approach. But for me, what I will typically do if I don't like something, I'm not enjoying it anymore, is I will focus on it. And what that means for me is that I will make this my sleepy time project. So again, I'm quite disciplined in my routine. I need to be. I guess we're all somewhere on that kind of Asperger's autistic spectrum thing. It's not even really a spectrum, it's more of a I don't know. We all have different traits, and I think we should all be quite proud of who we are. But one of my traits is that I really, really appreciate a routine. I appreciate breaking it every now and then as well, but I do like a routine. So I go up to bed at 9 and I'll craft until about until 10, and an alarm go off and it will say it's book time. I don't read anymore, unfortunately. I just knit. So at 10 o'clock I then have my sleepy time project. So it's got to be knitting, not crochet, because crochet gets me too excited and I can't sleep. Really. And then I have, it's a simple project, no checking patterns, no getting to a new bit where it's exciting. I just a nice basic easy knit, and I knit on that, having done my teeth and got all settled down, until roughly 11:15, and then I'll just play a game on my solitaire game and go to sleep. So I have a specific time for an easy project, and this is going to become my easy project. I'm not taking it away with me, but when I get back, I'll be working on this for 20 minutes probably, maybe a little longer, every day. So that's what I call a focus. So how do I choose whether to focus or frog? So this has become focus probably because it is nearly halfway through. It's portable as well, and I can't think of anything else to do with that yarn, and I think it is going to be a very beautiful, useful item when it's done. So all of those make me think focus. But having said that, if I get through a week of working on it every day and I'm really thinking, ooh, don't want to do that, then I'll think again, because my feeling is life is definitely too short to spend my leisure crafting time on things I don't like. So the 10 stitch blanket on those kind of lines, it's not halfway through, it was just at the beginning. It was using up scraps, which was really, really useful, because I do have quite a big bag of them. They were all I want to say, no, chunky. It was all my chunky weight scraps. But there are other blankets that you can use for that, so that's not a problem. And it was getting less portable. It was still only about this big, but it was going to get import, so you couldn't really carry it around pretty soon. So lots of things not in its favour, and my instinct just said I don't want to do it anymore, so I frogged it. So that's what's going on with those. 10 stitches no more. This one is going to be focused on for a while. It's a bit of a messy ball, this. I've got this much left. Okay, so, oh, this is Summit, by the way. It's in my projects, I'll put the details up. I made it years and years ago. I absolutely love it. When I go out, it's just perfect. Right, okay, so that is all of the where are they nows. What's next? Rustle papers, wake up the cat. Let's have a little talk about yarn dyeing. Dye one skein. I dye one skein every podcast cycle. That's as close as I get. Okay, so I bought a sock blank. I showed you that, and I wanted to dip dye that, which I did. So I used Wilton's blue something. I'll put that on the screen. And I dip dyed it. I'll show you some pictures here of the process. And I made a bit of a mistake with it, probably a rookie mistake, but you know, I'm very new to this and I'm very much a learner. So when I've dip dyed a hank of yarn before, when I've finished, I dip it in, take it out, dip it in. You can see that in the pictures. I just put the yarn into the dye bath and just let it absorb the remainder of the colour. I didn't do that this time because the light blue was great and I didn't want it to go at the far end. I didn't want it to go any darker. I also knew that it was unlikely I was going to get all the way to the end of the skein of the sock blank, because I don't knit 100 grams of socks. I only knit about 70 to 80. So I knew that top lighter stuff I wasn't going to get to anyway. So I didn't want it to go any darker. So after I dip dyed, I didn't put it back in the dye bath. Now that has caused two side effects. One is that it's not as colour fast as my dyeing usually is, so when I washed it there was colour coming out of it, and I didn't continue to wash it until the colour stopped because I was a bit scared about how far it would go. So that's a bit of a weakness. It may be that when I first wash them I lose some of the colour, but we'll see how that goes. The other thing is, although the skein, the sock blank looks quite dark, the yarn in the sock doesn't look that dark because the dye hasn't penetrated right through. It's on the outside, so you can see it on the outside, but once you open it up and you see that, and it's double sock blank, double, so there's two threads of yarn knitted together, it hasn't saturated as well, so it's a bit more speckly. I'm not sure that's the right word, but it's not as saturated a colour as it looks and you expect it to be. And that's okay, that's just a different effect and I'm fine with it, and I'll show you that project in a minute. But I think those are both side effects of not putting it back into the dye bath to carry on with. So that's a learning experience. But because the dye bath was there and it wasn't exhausted, I decided to do some dyeing of some cotton. I told you I bought some white cotton fabric to use for just this occasion, and I did some tie dyeing. Now I don't know if you're going to be able to see this because it's actually quite subtle. Oh, you can. Oh, that'd be great if it was a bit more ironed, but yes, you can see the tie dyeing. So I just did two small sheets. I think these are maybe too small. I was thinking of bags and things, but yeah, so I did a couple of those. Actually, they'd previously been done in red from another project, but it was very subtle. So I think actually you can see the pink. I don't know if you can, but I can see the pink in the white, as it were. So basically I just got a rock from the garden, give it a wash, wrapped the fabric around it, put a hair tie on it, and just put it in the dye bath and left it overnight. So it was already pretty cool. It stayed overnight, and then I took it out and dried it off. So using up that leftover dye. Fine. Right. And finally, on yarn dyeing, there is a National Trust property near us, and for those who don't live in the UK, National Trust is a national organisation. It's a charity, and it owns massive properties, old country homes and all that kind of stuff. This particular property is a Cistercian abbey. It's the oldest remaining Cistercian abbey in the UK. I don't really know what that means, but it's beautiful. And I went there with my family. My brother came up at the weekend, and we went there, and my sister-in-law and I went to a natural wool dyeing demonstration. We met a lovely lady there called Bronwyn. Hi, Bronwyn. And it was brilliant. I'll show you some pics here. So the colours that Bronwyn gets from just the plants are amazing. And I bought a couple of skeins of yarn. Don't have them with me, but I'll put a picture in here. The purple one is mine, and that was dyed with logwood. And the orange one with, I'll put it on the screen, English madder root, I think. So amazing colours from natural dyeing, and I am quite interested in this. So Bronwyn is going to do some workshops locally, so I'm going to go along to one of those and learn a bit more about that. So that's yarn dyeing. Next, new whips on the block. So we started a knit along, our first group podcast knit along last time. We have a thread in the Ravelry group. Did I tell you there's a Ravelry group for this podcast? And there's a thread in there for the knit along, which is called the Bird of Fire. I'll put a picky here. And one of the things that attracted me to it at the beginning is it's meant to be a way of showing off a skein of hand painted yarn. So I thought, well, I might as well dye my own for it. So me and my yarn dyeing buddy in America, we dyed one on the same day, not quite at the same time because the time difference doesn't work like that, but we both dyed a skein for it, and I showed you that last time. Quick peek here. So let's see how it's going. The pattern is brilliant. I'm really enjoying it. It's very elegant. To say you're doing a lot of swapping between colours, there's no, you don't have to cut yarn and sew ends in, you don't have to pick up stitches. It's really elegantly done. And let me show you my progress. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 flames, and you can see the way it's changing. I hope this will work because I can't see it. You can see the way the yarn is changing colour, and the flames are gonna, sorry, the black is going to, the sky is going to build up from here further up as well. It's a really well written pattern. It's pretty good for a beginner, I'd say, if you're really not particularly experienced in knitting. It's so well written, and it's so easy to follow. It tells you exactly what to do at all points. So this is the ball that I'm currently on. I'm getting to the dark red, and I've shown you the other one. So not quite halfway through. That's 7 flames and there's 16, so yeah, just nearly halfway through. Absolutely loving it. But the knit along, it's not too late to join in. I'll talk a bit more about that. So that's where I am with that. Very happy. That's going on holiday with me. And I was fussing about wooden needles and metal needles, and then my husband told me that we're taking hold luggage. I have never, as a knitter, taken hold luggage before, so I can take anything I want. Yay! Which is just as well, as I'll tell you later. Right, another new project is the soap sock. My husband travels a lot, in Europe mostly, US sometimes, but he's away most weeks, and he likes to use a bar of soap for a bath. And once you've unwrapped a bar of soap in a hotel, if you don't finish it, it'll just get thrown in the bin. So in the interest of preserving these things, he brings them home. And then I made him in 2010 a soap sock. Here's a pic. Now it is 8 years old and it has had a lot of wear and it has died. So he asked me for a new one. So I decided to crochet in one with the basket weave, which is a lovely crochet pattern if you haven't used it before. And it was so pretty, the yarn. So here's a picture of it finished. And I went out, came home, and it was in use. I hadn't even run the ends in. Oh, the ends got stuck in with the soap. I haven't even run the ends in. I got home and it wasn't there, and David had a bath and used it. So there you go. It's in use. So what he's done is just shoved some soap in there, and then you just wet it and use it like that. And then, you know, more soap comes in, it all just gets shoved in, it all gets mushed up together. Doesn't matter if it's different types or what size is, how much is left, it all just gets mushed in and slowly used up. So it's a brilliant way of using up stuff. And I love the way the yarn is pooled. I suppose I showed you a picture of it close up, didn't I? I love the way that the colour is pooled in lines across here. I did it first off, and then what typically happens, I made it, I showed it to my design partner Linda, who said, "Oh, need to write up a pattern for that." So I had change that I'd cast on, or whatever, foundation chained, more than I actually needed, and I'd done a few decreases to get how I wanted, and I thought, well, if I'm going to put a pattern on for it, I ought to do it right, didn't I? So I ripped it all the way back and did it again. But it's very, very quick to make up, and the pooling was completely different on the first one. I wish I'd taken a picture of it actually. So yeah, there it is. It is a pattern. It's called Opus. That's our pattern design business. Opus Pattern Designs, and it's Opus 1902. It's a free download because obvious is nothing exciting in it. It's nothing new. It's just basket weave, which is front and back post, double crochets in the US terms, trebles in UK terms. Nothing new in it, but it's just a really nice quick project. I love front and back post trebles, double crochets. I just really enjoy doing them, and I love the basket weave, the way it comes out. So it was just a really fun project. Excuse me, I need to go a couple of hours to make both times. And it's a lovely way. You want cotton for it. The first soap sock had was made of mercerized cotton, and that was absolutely fine. This isn't. This is an American brand. It's not mercerized. Doesn't really matter. Any cotton you've got, doesn't matter what size. This is worsted, so I used a 6mm. Oh, I don't know. It's in the pattern, but just use slightly bigger than the yarn needs, and if it's not wide enough, just make it longer. Doesn't matter. So that's available to download now. And the final, oh yeah, my ombre sock. So the yarn, the sock blank that I dyed. And there it is. And I'm knitting directly from that. I'm not winding it into anything else. It doesn't seem the point to me. Pardon me. Sorry, did you hear that? That was the cat, honest. There we go. So, my ombre socks. So, you can see the wiggliness. I'm knitting straight from, let's have that. Yeah, you can see how wiggly that is. Straight from the sock blank. So there's a certain amount of texture in them. I normally, when I do a vanilla sock, I normally put a little bit of interest in, like do a Hermione's every day, or some interesting, just slightly patterned textured thing. I tried with this. You couldn't see it because of the you can see the lack of saturation there. And look at the stripes. I don't have a clue how that happens, but look at that. So because of that, you might just be able to see at the bottom there where I put in a bit of, I did one row of knit one purl when I was going to do a broken rib. It doesn't show. It just didn't show. So I decided not to worry about it and to just do a plain vanilla sock. And I think if I remember, when I get round to it, I'm going to block one of them and not the other, and have a look at what blocking does to the texture of it, because it's not, it's bobbly, it's wiggly, it's not just normal, what do you call it? Normal V's of stocking stitch. So I'll have a look at how the blocking affects it, and hopefully show you that too. So yeah, that's them. They're not far off the heel. I can just about see the ombre. In fact, I can see it better here than in real life. There's the dark coming up here. I might make them a bit longer than I normally do. Not as long as my socksicles from my first hand-dyed yarn. But I might make them a bit longer, but I'll have to remember to do some increases so they come up over my calf muscles. So I can wear them over the top of my jeans. I think they'd look pretty cool over the top of skinny jeans. So there they are. I'm doing all the standard 64 stitches, 2.75mm needle, which is a US. I've got this written down. It's a US size 2. That's my standard, and then I'll do the German short row heel and maybe a long cuff of twisted rib. Maybe the twisted rib, I won't need to do any increases because the twisted rib will be more stretchy. Or maybe I'll put a few in and do a long cuff that could maybe bend over. No, if I bend over it'll ruin the ombre effect, won't it? Just talk away to myself here. So that's my ombre sock. Oh, I bought those Symphony wooden needles to use with it. Got very excited about those because they are so pretty. Drove me mad. Not just so much the texture of the wooden needles themselves, although that did make it a lot slower, but the joins. Oh my goodness, the joins. So normally when I start to a row on this, I'll just pull through and just push all the stitches on both socks onto the needle like this. Well, this here, which has just taken me 5 seconds, was taking me about 20 seconds to get all the stitches past this join on the Symphony wooden needles. It was horrible, and I'd started on them because I thought I'm going to take it with me and I want to have them on the wood, so to keep the tension the same I might as well. But I couldn't carry on with them. I had to take them off, and now of course I know that I don't need to have the wooden ones, so they're another set of needles that I'm never going to use again. Never mind. So there we go. Right, that's new whips on the block. Where are we at? 37 minutes. Right. Well, it's 37 minutes for me. It's probably longer for you because I've added in things. Spinning. I got to go on a spinning wheel this week. I went over to see a friend to take her some yarn and I had a go on it. I'm not addicted. It was fun, but I am definitely a drop spindle girl. So I wanted to show you this, which is a drop spindle from Spin City, which is a seller in the UK. I've got 2 of these. This is actually the one that belonged to my daughter. She got this as a birthday present from her nana, who is probably watching. Hello. She has sadly stopped spinning for now, so I have come into it and I'm using it. If she takes it up again later on, she'll get it back. So that is what I have spun. You better see there are some really nice, thin, uniform bits and some not so. But what I'm doing is I'm taking what I had considered I had spun before and respinning it. So absolute total novice beginner to getting a bit better. As I said last time, excited to find I can have do-overs. So look at this. There's these bits here which are over twisted. The twist tends to go into the thinner bit, so all the twist is in there. That's hardly twisted at all, but it just means that I can redo it, because what you do is you just go back over it, undo it, sort of unspin it so it's not twisted anymore, and then just redraft. So I can just pull it out and redraft it, which is amazing. So I'm getting to do it, and I may even do it a third time. I so enjoy the process. It's really slow, and I do it at knit group on a Wednesday afternoon, and I really, really enjoy it. So that's Spin City. That's where I got my fibre from as well. I've got 2 bats of fibre from them, and I haven't used those yet, all of them. So that's spinning. What's next? Knit group, right. So I started a new segment last time called Knit Group, and somebody on the Ravelry page said, why don't we have a thread for Knit Group? So we do. We have a thread for Knit Group. So this is really any of the kind of stuff that you might chat about if you were going to a group. So that's on there now. Do pop along and say hello. And on there we've also got the Cal, the knit along. Mentioned that earlier on. I think there's 6 of us at the moment, including the designer, Sarah Wilcox. She is starting, hopefully she's starting this week on hers, but there's lots of us doing it, and there's no rules, there's no start date and end date and whatever. Just, it's not too late. If you like the look of the Bird of Fire pattern and you would like to give it a go, you just need 1 skein, so 100 grams of sock weight, hand dyed or pretty, doesn't have to be hand dyed, pretty colours, fancy looking, whatever you like, and 1 skein of something contrasting, so black if it's a light colour, whatever you fancy, and then just buy the pattern and give it a go. Come along to the thread and post and say hello. I'm not going to finish that thread at any point. If we get a few other people, I might look at doing a prize, but at the moment there's no real need for it. We're all just really enjoying the project. So anything else you want to chat about, to knit group type thoughts, post on there. Right, final segment, plans. I am hoping tomorrow to go to Stephen West's shop in Amsterdam. I very much doubt he'll be there, but I might be a bit of a fangirl mess if he is. But I'm going to go along with hubby on their way to our holiday destination, and see if I can snag a couple of balls of yarn. That might help with the worries about running out of projects. If I finish my ombre socks, if I bought a skein of sock yarn, at least I can start another pair. That's the best excuse you've heard in a while for buying yarn when you've got plenty, right? So very excited about that. Oh, I didn't bring down that book. There's a book called The Shawl Project. There's lots of them actually. I've got book 4, bought it at Yarndale in September, and they are crochet shawls. I had plans to do 1 or 2 of them, but I never did. And as I've been saying, I want more crochet in my life, so I dug it out again because I remembered that one of the reasons I didn't do many of them is that they needed mini sets, so mini skeins of either 10 or 20 grams. I don't have any of those, and I wasn't particularly keen on buying them because they do seem to be really expensive for 100 grams of yarn, because obviously the yarn dyer's got to dye them all separately. I understand that, and the skeining them all separately. I understand why they're more expensive. I don't have a problem with that, but I just haven't bought any because they just seemed like a lot of money. And then suddenly it occurred to me, I can dye them myself. So I have currently, I think I've got 200. Oh, do you know what? I've just remembered, I forgot to tell you something about yarn dyeing. I will in a minute. I've got about 200 grams of sock weight yarn left to dye, so I can break that into 20 gram minis. And one of the things I'd like to do is to do a gradient set, so get 5 20 gram skeins and then kind of dip dye them effectively. Just throw one of them into the pot, wait a few seconds, throw the next one in, wait a few seconds, throw the next one in. And if I've got the dye amounts right, then that should produce a gradient set of minis. It's probably not as simple as that because things rarely are, but that's my plan, to dye some minis for the shawl project, shawls, and then I just need to cast on lots of crochet. if I'm watching a crochet video, I get a sort of exciting feeling, and then I get crochet envy. And if I'm at knit group and I'm knitting and somebody else is crocheting, I have to crochet. I put away the project I've got and I get crochet out. I've got a very funny relationship with crochet. I love it. So that's the plan. And there is one more thing. I am starting a new business. It is knitting related, although it's a bit more geographical than international, but I am launching that when I get back from holiday. So I will tell you a bit more about that. Like everything else, it's not going to have a huge segment in the podcast, but I'll talk a little bit about it, and I am very, very excited. So that's that. I think, judging by the mess around me, I have done everything that I needed to. There's one other thing I wanted to do, and I haven't done it till now because I'm worried that I'll mess up the camera, but I wanted to show you this. Somebody had asked about it. So there's the D for my husband's name, there's the M for my name, there's L, L and A for my daughter's names, and there's a heart at the end. That's what that is, because somebody had caught a glimpse of it and wondered what on earth it was. So that is a present from my lovely sister-in-law and brother. So final things to show you, just a final show. Isn't she adorable? And the other fella who is, I don't know if I can show you him. Anyway, I don't know if you caught him. So, goodbye from the cats. Goodbye from me. I will see you in a couple of weeks. If you have enjoyed this video, please click the thumbs up, and if you want to hear more, subscribe. If you have a minute, please just put a comment on to say how the sound was for you. I keep thinking, oh, I must remember to speak up. So you might say, it's a bit varied, Mel. Sometimes you seem to be shouting and sometimes I can't hear you. But if you wouldn't mind just popping a comment on and saying what the sound was like for you. Please pop along to the Ravelry page. Join, have a look, make a comment on the episode thread, or say hello in the welcome thread, or post something in the knit group thread. Tell us what you're making at the moment and why you're excited about it, or ask a question. You know, we've got a few knitters and crafters on there who might be able to help with any queries you've got. And if you fancy the Bird of Fire, come along and join that too. It's a great opportunity to do a pattern when you've got the designer there to help you with any problems, because I did have a couple of problems because I didn't read the pattern properly, and she was able to help, so that's lovely. So I look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. Thank you for watching, and happy crafting. Bye. I'm a cat magnet today. Look, pretty.